Well, good morning or good afternoon, whatever time it is. I was supposed to go to the Cars and Coffee this morning, but I kind of decided I didn't want to. Mainly because I got two cars and both of them need to have work done to them. So, I got the MR2 number 1 that needs new O-rings for the fuel injector. Alright, well, I don't really know what to think right now. I went to both AutoZone and Advanced Auto Parts to get O-rings for the fuel injector. And both places, when I told them the car, model number, make, everything, told me the exact same O-rings. But they look big for this fuel injector compared to what I had.
All right, well, I think it's about time I give you all an update on the car, the MR2 specifically, and what's been going on with it, where it's at, current situation, status, because to say a lot has changed would be an understatement. And honestly, it's more of a question of where to begin than anything else. I guess let's just kind of start where the last video led off. I was installing a turbo kit. I installed the turbo kit. I was driving it. Not long after driving it and starting to tune it, I started to have some problems. The first problem that I noticed was that my AFRs were all off. And I wasn't sure what specifically the problem was until much, much later on. But that was problem number 1. Problem number 2 was when I was driving at one point, I saw a massive, the only way to put this would be a spray of oil all in the engine bay. And I think what ended up happening with that was the way that I had the vacuum lines routed created way too much pressure in the valve cover, which ultimately ended up making the main seal not completely fail, but push oil out of it onto the flywheel, and oil essentially sprayed as the flywheel spun. Not good, not ideal at all, but that was number 2. There's a few other smaller problems that I ran into. Number 1, the oil pressure going to the turbo was too great. The restrictor that I had was too big, so I was seeing some smoke from that, which in turn caused problems. But long story short, without going into too much detail with all of that, I ended up pulling the turbo off and started contemplating what I wanted to do with the car, if I wanted to keep it. So after talking to my wife a little bit, my intention all along has been to eventually get rid of the car and replace it with either a Lotus Exige or a Lotus Elise. And my wife kind of gave me the nod of, yeah, we can do that, why not? So I put the car on the market, and after a couple people showed interest and then ultimately ended up backing out because they all wanted to do the same exact thing, and that was pull out the turbo kit, uninstall, pull out the engine, and install a K-swap. So definitely not keep the car how it was. So for them, the engine and the turbo kit didn't add any value, so the offers they gave me were not what the car was actually worth with everything installed. Now, given the value of a car is all subjective and objective, parts don't really add value if they don't have any value to the person. So I understood what they offered me. It was still unnerving, if you will. So after a while, I kind of decided, okay, I started looking at prices of Elises and Exiges and started talking to people local that have them, and looked at a couple, and my conclusion was kind of, it's not worth it right now. If anything happened to the car, it would essentially be deemed totaled. I didn't want to have to pay cash for a new front clam or rear clam for the car because of the cost of them, and I didn't want to have to deal with insurance trying to total the car out. So I kind of decided, okay, let me just keep the MR2 and go from there. Just enjoy it for a little bit longer, which is kind of where we're at right now. After discovering those problems with the car, I pulled the turbo kit off and put the car back to NA, and discovered that the issues with my air-fuel ratios were actually an exhaust leak that wasn't really bad, but it was enough to cause problems with the AFRs, and it really became present when I started messing with the mid-pipe.
So as I pulled off the turbo kit, I obviously needed to replace the headers. And that's what I've done. I got these headers to put back on there. I'm still running the Che mid-pipe decatted. I threw on the stock intake again, but I'm going to be switching that out to the same 2.5-inch mass airflow pipe with an AEM intake, which I have somewhere around here. And the problem that I just had to get this car up and running, because it does actually run, I had one of my O-rings for my fuel injectors that, as I switched them back and forth from the larger 630cc injectors to the stock, one of the O-rings tore and I was leaking fuel all over the place. So I ended up just going to AutoZone and Advanced Auto Parts to get O-rings that I needed to fix it. Alright, well this marks the first successful start with the turbo off, where I'm not leaking a ton of fuel. So, here we are now. So we're looking good up here. I don't see any fuel leaking. No problems. I don't hear any exhaust leaks. The exhaust sounds pretty good. Yeah. So we're looking pretty good so far. Here, everything's good. RPM's right at 1,000 RPM. I need gas. That's a problem for a different day. I'm thinking right now I'm going to go ahead and install the wideband O2 sensor and see what kind of fuel trims I'm getting. But I'd like to see what the fuel is doing, considering I just had a whole bunch of problems with the fuel injectors. I do have the stock intake in, so they should be spot on right around 14.7 to 15.1. So let's see.
And it really became present when I started messing with the mid pipe, and I guess I made the exhaust leak even worse. And my AFR started jumping all around the place, and it just told me, okay, I need to fix this.
So after driving the car around real quick, I decided it was time to take care of the exhaust leak. So I went ahead and pulled off the Che mid pipe. Cut off the end. I'm going to be doing a V-band connected to the flex pipe. Flex pipe will be on this side, V-band will be on this side, so that with my turbo and everything else, it'll be a super easy, I guess, if I ever want to go straight from turbo to V-band and bypass the normal mid pipe, it'll be easier. But yeah, in the process of pulling this guy off, it looks pretty good there. Here's what I found. Take a look at this. So this is the end to it, and this is the original Che, so it's some time old. So for all of those performance gains we thought we were probably getting with the Che catless mid pipe, whatever. Well, that's a bit of a problem right there. So let's see what I can do to take care of that. It's kind of disturbing. The money that I paid for this thing back in the day, and I just finished welding up the mid pipe. So now it has V-band. I'm not going to give you a close look at those welds because they are by far the worst welds I've done in a long time. I even blew one hole through it because I waited too long, or I gave one spot too much heat. But you know what? They're strong. They will hold. Now I can install it and start the car back up and see if I fix the exhaust leak. All right. Well, started it up. Got everything all tightened up. And for the first time in months, my idle vehicles are damn near perfect. So yeah, that is good. That's real good. I could tell by the sound almost instantaneously that the exhaust loop is gone. So that is a whole lot better than what it was. Sweet.
And then after figuring out that the oil leak was in fact out of the main seal, but the main seal wasn't completely blown, that kind of made me rethink things too. So at this point, the turbo is off. I ended up putting on a TRD replica header, and At this point, the PFC is back on there, the fuel injectors are set back to stock, and for all intents and purposes, the car right now is the most stock engine-wise that it has been for a very long time. I did fix the exhaust leak. I put in a V-band and replaced the original flex pipe on there, so all of that is good to go. But yeah, that's really where we're at right now. So where do we go from here is kind of the next question. Well, I ended up getting a restrictor for the turbo oil line, which means I am probably going to be reinstalling the turbo kit. Now that I have a couple other things figured out with it, the exhaust leak is fixed, which means I'll be able to fully tune the AFRs as they need to be. The restrictor is going to be good for the oil feed line, which means now we won't have any more oil being pushed through that, causing white smoke or any other problems. Exhaust is good, that's good, which means I'll be able to finally tune the car properly. And I've also gotten a few more parts for the car. So I still have the white line sway bars for the front and rear that I need to install. I also ended up getting some of the door pillar, door braces, whatever you want to call them. And I also ended up getting a TRD replica front lip and side skirts. So at some point I gotta get those painted and get those installed. Other than that, I mean, that's kind of the update of the car right now. Yeah, that's that. I guess I will catch you guys next time. If you're still watching, thank you. I really don't know why the hell you still are. Otherwise, yeah, catch you later. Peace.